freedom of choice. Lahat ng tao ay may karapatang pumili kung ano ang gusto nila. Ang pagpili ng isang option ay magkakaroon ng pagbabago sa inyong buhay. Magandang desisyon man or masama. Walang tama o walang maling pagpipilian. Nagkakaroon ng pagpipili kung mayroong dalawa o higit sa dalawang pagpipilian. Ngunit madali nga bang pumili? Ang aking kaibigan ay nag-conduct ng survey. Gamit ang mga fruit-flavored candy, pinapili niya ang mga tao kung alin sa dalawang candy ang kanilang pipiliin. Pagkatapos silang pumili, tinanong ng aking kaibigan kung bakit yun ang kanilang pinili at satisfied ba sila sa kanilang pinili. Marami ang pumili ng lemon kaysa apple. Dahil sinasabi nila na yun daw ay citrus at paborito nila. At tinanong ng kaibigan ko kung satisfied ba sila sa pinili nila. Sabi nila, oo. Ang main point ng itong survey ay kung satisfied ba sila sa kanilang pinili at kung wala silang regret na yun ang pinili nila. Lahat sila ay sumagot na wala silang regret at satisfied sila. Ngunit sa pangalawang survey, pinapili natin ang mga tao kung alin sa 5 fruit-flavored candy ang kakainin nila. Kung sa unang survey, 2 lang ang pagpipilian, ngayon naman ay 5. Ayon sa resulta, marami ang nahirapan kung ano ang kukunin nilang flavor. Marami ang pumili ng kanilang paboritong flavor tulad ng pineapple or apple, mga ganon. Ngunit, nagsisisi sila sa kanilang pinili at sana daw ay pinili nila yung gusto nilang kainin. In short, ang ginawa nilang desisyon ay impulse. Dahil nakita nila ang kanilang paboritong flavor, yun na agad ang kanilang kinuha. Sinabi nila na sana ay pinag-isipan muna nila kung ano ang pipiliin. This concludes the choice survey. Ayon sa aming isinagawang survey, mas madaling pumili kung kaunti lang ang pagpipilian. Dahil 2 lang ang option mo, mas pipiliin mo kung Dahil 2 lang ang option mo, mas pipiliin mo kung ano ang mas gusto mong option. Pero kung papipiliin ka ng isang option out of many countless options, mahihirapan ka dahil hindi mo alam kung anong option ang mas fit sa iyo. Ngayon, alam na natin na mas madali tayong makapili ng isang option kung kaunti lang ang pagpipilian. Ang main point ng aking explanation ay walang makakapigil sa iyo kung ano man ang magiging desisyon mo at kung ano man ang pipiliin mo sa buhay. Dahil karapatan mo na pumili kung anong mas makakabuti sa iyo at kung ano ang mas gustuhin mo sa desisyon. Live your life according to your beliefs.
Freedom of assembly. Freedom of assembly ensures people can gather and meet, both publicly and privately. Assemblies can be platform to advocate for change and for people to raise awareness about the issues that matter to them, whether it is human rights, socio-economic rights, or any other issues. The right to peacefully assemble belongs to all individuals, including persons espousing minority or dissenting views or working on sensitive issues, such as human rights defenders, trade unionists, and Miana Kiai, the former United Nations Special Rapporteur, said the right to express grievances or inspiration for change through peaceful protest lies at the heart of any democratic society. States have a responsibility to ensure that the right to freedom of assembly is protected, especially when those who assemble protest against public policies and challenge the state. The right to peacefully assemble comprises the right to freely choose the location and the timing of the assembly, including public streets, roads, and squares. The right to assemble online news must also be fully guaranteed. Government often violate the right to freedom of assembly as method of suppressing dissent and critical voices. The right to peaceful protest is indeed a core component to the right to assemble peacefully. However, in many circumstances, peaceful protesters are subject to arrest, violence, threats, or intimidation. In some cases, legal provision criminalize organizers and those participating in peaceful assemblies, and in other cases, interpretation of the law may be manipulated to legitimize the arrest of peaceful protesters. Intimidation techniques such as these often engender a culture of self-censorship. Violation of the right to freedom of assembly therefore have serious implications for society, as they deny an open and pluralistic dialogue and repress one of civil society's core measures for challenging authorities. Also, more and more states are trying to block social media and communication tools to hinder the organization of protests. No such restrictions should be permitted. States must refrain from using pretenses to abusively restrict the right to protest, such as through misusing anti-terrorism or national security measures. Rather, these should facilitate access to the public space and ensure the smooth holding of protests without undue use of violence by law enforcement officials. Countries' legal frameworks must contain effective, clear, and reasonable provisions on the right to protest. Limitations should be less resort. The right to protest lies in the recognition and protection of rights that include freedoms of expression and opinions, association, and peaceful.
Freedom of speech. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This the right shall include freedom to hold opinion and to receive import information and ideas without interference by public authority, regardless of pointers, and is the right to express information, ideas, opinions, and free to the government restriction, based on the content and subject, only to reasonable limitation. There's so many limitations in freedom of speech and expression, therefore, may not recognize as being absolute and communalization or boundaries. To freedom of speech relate to libel, slander, obscenity, pornography, and sedition, incitement and fighting words, classified information, or copyright information. And the only purpose of this limitation of freedom of speech is to prevent harm others using offensive language, like saying bad words to others, and the freedom of speech is the right to say whatever you like, whenever you like. Right? Wrong. Freedom of speech is the right to seek and receive import information and ideas of all kinds by any means. Freedom of speech is the right to freedom of expression applies to ideas of all kinds, including those that may be deeply offensive, but it comes to reasonably believes it can be legitimately restricted. You might not expect that I say this, but in certain circumstances for speech, freedom of speech can be restricted by using offensive language, bad words, anything to others.